Let me confirm if we are live now. Yeah, I think we are live. Okay.
Great.
সকলোকে নমস্কাৰ চেফৰ প্লেটফৰ্মৰ কাৰণে আজি আমাৰ মাজলৈ আকৌ নম্ৰতা শৰ্মাক মাতি আনিছোঁ আৰু নম্ৰতা শৰ্মাক আমি সকলোৱে ইতিমধ্যে লগ পাইছোঁ আমাৰ ছেশ্যনৰ হোষ্ট হিচাপেও আৰু স্পীকাৰ হিচাপেও আৰু আমাৰ ছেশ্যনবিলাকত আমি ছেক্সুৱেল এবিউজ ছেক্সুৱেল ভায়লেন্সৰ বিভিন্ন এংগল লৈ পেলাই ইতিমধ্যে কথা পাতিছোঁ আমাৰ 5টা ছেশ্যন হৈ গৈছে আৰু নম্ৰতাৰ লগত আজি আমি আকৌ সাইকোলজিক্যাল পাৰ্সপেক্টিভ লৈ পেলাই কথা পাতিম আৰু আজিৰ ছেশ্যনটোত আমি খুব এটা কমপ্লিকেটেড জটিল বিষয় এটা লৈ বিষয় কথা পাতিবলৈ আগবাঢ়িছোঁ উই কল ইট ইনচেষ্ট আৰু নম্ৰতা আমাৰ লগত যোৱা বহু মাহৰ পৰা সাইকোলজি এক্সপাৰ্ট হিচাপে ইনভলভ হৈ আছে ওয়েলকাম নম্ৰতা টু দিস প্লেটফৰ্ম and I'm really glad to have you back for this session.
Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, and yeah, let's
I'm good.
start
I'm very
directly.
happy to be back as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, let's directly go to the question and answer since, as I said, it's a very complicated topic already. Like, so before going to incest directly, let's start from the point that that sexual abuse and home, like sexual abuse at home ambience. So yeah, so how do you want to like discuss that topic?
Okay. Right, right. So let's just create a base over here about what kind of issues that involve child sexual abuse and what is India facing currently. So according to data, almost 90% of India's rapes are committed by the people who are known to the child or the victim. And when we talk about known people, we are primarily talking about family members, slightly distant relatives, or family friends. And that's where child sexual abuse becomes very, very critical, because here we are trusting people on our children to be with these trusted people. But then there is a very something very wrong is happening within our homes. A place where which is supposed to be safe is not quite safe for our children. And also India has become an online hosting hub for child sexual material as well. If we look at, there are horrific figures that talk about how every 155th minute a child less than 16 years is raped for every 13th hour, under the age of 10. So here we're talking about children whose ages range from 10 to 16, even lesser, and this data is being put online. So where are these parents? These things are commonly seen in families where both parents or even one parent is constantly outside the home, or they're out for earning. You see children from low socioeconomic backgrounds, they have issues of money. There is a lot of poverty, so both parents and elder siblings need to go out of their homes. The child comes back from school and he's all alone, so who's going to take care of that child? Definitely when they are unattended, such things are they tend to happen. So in India it is a very severe, it's a very profound situation, and I think we need to talk about it a little more.
Okay, so then let's talk about incest first from the definition. Let's start from the definition. What is incest? How complicated the situation is, and what kind of impact basically a child may face because of
Right.
this kind of act, and what kind of like legal perspectives or preventions are there to take care of such kind of act.
Right, right. So, like I said, that sexual offenses that happen with really close family members. Now, according to the law, incest is considered to be one of the forms of sexual abuse with children, and this has been defined as a sexual contact that occurs between family members. Most incest occurs between older males or relatives, and they perform such acts on younger females or males in the family. And this does not depend on what class or what color or what level the
Yeah.
person belongs to. It can happen in any socioeconomic background. Even there are a lot of movies that have been made where we see that this is not a very common issue in just very poor families, but in very rich families as well. And the issue that mainly comes here is that the families, once they get to know about these concerns, they are not willing to talk about it. They are not willing to put their relatives behind bars because it is all about their image, right? So there are a lot of factors that also come into existence, but we'll talk about that a little later. Also, incest and sexual abuse of children may take many forms. People might ask, like, how do we know? Like, the first factor would be how close the victim and the culprit are. If it is a blood relation, if it is a close family relative or a family friend, it will be considered incest. And actions such as sexually suggestive language, prolonged kissing, looking and petting, or vaginal or anal intercourse, all these acts that are clearly very very offensive can come under this category. So to clearly mention all that out, and it is absolutely something very important that we all need to know here is, it is an offense in the eyes of the law, whether or not it is happening consensually or non-consensually. No matter what the age, no matter how open or happy or sad you are or consenting you are, it is wrong in the eyes of the law, and it is also punishable for a very very hefty um, punishment.
Right. So you just mentioned that any kind of act between the blood relations.
Right.
So does that mean that basically your whatever you have said, it is taking me back to my childhood? So whatever we have faced, or I had faced, or like people like me have faced from our family members, I'm saying when family members like a close blood relations or like first cousin or what whoever they are. So that mean that we all had gone through incest?
Probably, yes, definitely. Because sometimes young children are not even aware how inappropriately they're being touched. Some relatives or senior family members might name it as love, and if the child kind of resists the actions, they scare them by saying that if you tell your family members, they will get very very upset, they will beat you, they won't believe you that something like this is being done by me. And the child then goes back into the shell and keeps on taking that torture. He's not able to report it to anyone. So somewhere down the line, there is a possibility that not every but most children might have faced this without even knowing that something wrong was happening with them. And I'm sure we all have experiences in our life. I personally, I have counseled so many young teenagers, girls and boys. Never forget that it can happen to any gender. That, and all of them have reported being abused by their own fathers or by their own siblings. And when these people reported something wrong happening to them, to their parents, the mothers who's supposed to be the biggest, or the father who's supposed to be the biggest security blanket for the child, they would say that no, no, this is not possible, we don't trust you. So this is the biggest concern that comes, and the child just suddenly withdraws himself or herself. They are sometimes also told that they are lying. So imagine something so terrible happening to a child, and he or she finds the guts to tell their parents or a close relative, and they deny it. What
Yes.
goes through the mind of the child? They will go back to their shell. They will not discuss this with anyone. They'd rather just face the torture. Yeah.
Right. And how do you feel like if you consider the ratio, like male to male? I mean, like older
Mhm.
male. You already had mentioned that most of the time it's
Yes.
older male. Probably it has a social science angle, so
Hmm.
like a societal perspective that females are always subdued regarding their sexuality and all.
Right.
Probably that's the only reason that a male can normally become the offender. So when you say that older male, and it
Hmm.
happened to both male and female. So what kind of what is the ratio basically? Is the same male to male and male to female, or male to male is more? male to female is
Right.
less kind
So,
of.
if we talk about the culprit first, the people who are the offenders, I have often seen that it is the culprits are the older males in or the older relatives in the family. And when we talk about victims, the ratio is, I cannot clearly mention the ratio, but it is seen that girls are abused more than boys. And there is a huge possibility that we think these numbers are bigger for girls and lesser for boys because boys are not able to report it, or nobody tends to believe them, or because males are raised in a manner where they are not supposed to share something that is that shows them as weak, right? So maybe they're not taught how to express their emotions well. So boys think that if I share this thing or this information with my parents or someone else, they might consider me as, weak, or they might just find a flaw in me. And
Right.
maybe that ratio differs from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and another thing is, uh, you said it's a legally offensive,
Yes.
whether it's a consensual or not. Just it is like the country dependent, whether country is allowing that particular act or not, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go to the consensus, because we are
Mm-hmm.
mostly targeting the students, like teenagers, and
Right.
their parents and the friends, family and friends. So no, let's not talk about the consensus, because we are not talking about adults and all.
Yeah.
But coming to the young age children,
Mm-hmm.
probably minors or so. I have recently come across cases where the first thing, the victim, or I would say, I don't know what word I should use, victim or survivor, but the
Survivor.
first
Yeah.
survivor, the person asked me, I continued it for some time. Like it started, I do not know how and why, but when did it started? I
Mm-hmm.
continued it for some time, like for years. Okay, why such kind of things like keeps happening for some time?
Okay. So there might be a number of reasons why the fellow that you were talking to, the case that you're referring to. So first of all, initially when something like this happened, the person might not have had a good social support. Okay, and at that moment he just felt lonely. He felt alone, and the only way to get through this must have been to go through it. Right. The second reason is that maybe he or she must have reported to someone and they were not given the right kind of response, okay, or the support. The third reason can be that despite telling their family members and even warning the offender might not have worked, and this must have been going on for so long that the child is now has now gotten used to the abuse, used or the trauma that the child is facing. So sometimes not being, the initial reaction of a child when he or she is stuck in such a situation is the feeling of being numb, and that numbness can stay for a very long time. And again, let's say the act has happened once, the numbness is there, it goes away, and then the next time when it happens, it just keeps on building up. With the time they start feeling like they deserve this, they start living in guilt, and they just get keep getting suppressed by these feelings of guilt, self blame, nobody can help me, worthlessness, hopelessness. With the time they also develop a lot of psychological issues, they might get depressed, and the willingness or the ability to talk to someone, it just vanishes. So they get stuck in the loop, and they just feel like nobody can help them, and that helplessness, feeling of helplessness, is actually the end of it all. And unless someone actually pulls them out of it, it sometimes they just can't find another way out. So sometimes we need a third person or a second person who needs to pull us out of it. It might not be possible for the person alone to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way you say it, I guessed then the person, the victim, probably develop some kind of psychological traits over time, right?
Right.
So can you please name some of those traits, possible traits?
Yeah.
Though we cannot probably confirm whether all are connected or not, 100%,
Mm.
but at least we can name a few of those.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, every bad trauma or a bad traumatic incident comes with the different reactions, and at to also in different phases. So let's talk about the initial reactions the child might face. It might, first of all, it might include numbing, like I just said, a state of confusion, also a state of dissociation where they might lose memory of what just happened to them. For maybe a few days or a few weeks, they might not even talk to anyone. They lose their appetite, they don't want to, they start isolating themselves, go into withdrawal. um, Codependency tends to increase, and also the human connection, it starts to deteriorate over the time. When they are constantly faced with these issues, it turns into more long term psychological concerns, and then they take the form of anxiety, depression, eating disorders. There are a lot of physical effects also, and these are strongly associated with physical pains, such as stomach aches as soon as they see the person, let's say, or the offender in the family gatherings. They might just feel very very, how should I say, they might feel pain in some part of the body. Their head starts to hurt, their stomach starts to hurt, and they have no cause for it. These are called psychosomatic symptoms, where the mind is actually indicating the body that something good is not happening, and the body starts reacting in a negative manner. Now, if we go further in the adult life, all education, academic down there, we see a lot of academic downfall. There are people who develop heart diseases, ulcers, and sorry, I was getting a call.
No, no
Also,
worries.
children tend to step into a lot of substance abuse and sexually risky behaviors, because when they are abused for such a long time, they feel like the only way to relieve their stress or to get it out somewhere is by abusing someone else. So this might become a pattern. They might become violent, develop aggression. In fact, I was watching a documentary recently. I've seen a lot of documentaries, and a lot of psychopaths, a lot of sociopaths have a history of being sexually abused by their parents or physically abused by their family members, and they
Right.
end up becoming aggressive, and they tend to also kill their parents most of the times, or the person who has been abusing them for a very long time. And they sometimes also get into the pattern of doing the same things to somebody else. So these long term effects can be not just harmful for themselves, but also for the other people around them. Yeah.
Right, right. Why I'm asking this, because I came across a case where the person had this kind of history, and then I came across a term like master and slave kind of
Mm-hmm. Yep.
relationship. I heard that's a like psychological trait one
Mm-hmm.
can develop out of this kind of trauma or something. Is that correct or so?
Yes, in some cases it has been seen. It's called sadism and masochism. It comes under the category of sexual disorders, and it has been observed that people who have been sadists or who have been let so the two. Let me just explain. Sadist is someone on whom the sexual offense or the abuse is being performed on, and masochist is someone who is being the head or who is actually abusing the person. Okay, and a person who has been a sadist from a young age all their life, they tend to build these kind of characteristics where when they grow up, they tend to perform the same thing on another person who is weaker to them. So a sadist is also considered to be weak, because these culprits, these offenders, choose young children to become
Right.
sadists, है ना? And when these young children tend to grow up, that's all they've seen. If they want to create a connection with a human being or sexual relations with a partner, the only thing they know is to perform such acts, and they get gratification out of it, right? So
Right.
something that is abnormal to the society is normal for these children, and that is very
Right.
very sad. It's very heartbreaking that abuse can become normalized if it is done over a period of time. So yes, this is a disorder, and it is one of the reasons why people develop such kind of
Right.
characteristics is because of child sexual abuse done by family members or relatives in homes.
Right, right. So it's very painful, basically, we have
Absolutely.
to say. Yeah. So what we have uh, come to know from all this part of discussion, that there is no like sexual gratification that one young child, minor child can, you know, uh, experience during that time of abuse, right?
Yeah.
So if a person is now hesitating to like come out with for about such incidents, just because it continues for like over a certain period of time, and then thinking, okay, I also enjoyed that period, so I should not,
Right.
that cannot be sexual abuse. So probably we must say that when there is a minor involved with a older
Mm-hmm.
person, so there is nothing like consensual or physical
Right.
gratification or something, right?
Yeah. It's
So
clearly an offense. Yes.
it's clearly an offense, correct?
Right.
So yeah, I got an question. So you want to take
Mm-hmm.
now, or you want to come back to question later?
Sure, we can take it. If yeah, if it's a quick question, we can take it. Yeah.
Okay. It's from Victor, and he said that culprit is the older person, but uh, how older is compared to the victim? I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
of going to this question, that if two kids of the same age group get curious and start playing with each other's bodies,
Mm-hmm.
then is it a case of incest? Can a 13-year-old kid or teenager be a culprit with respect to a 10-year-old kid? Is there any clear definition of the age gap between the culprit and the victim?
Okay, so that is a very good question and a very technical one. Um, we also need to understand what kind of sexual activity we're talking about, right? If there is penetration, if there is like proper physical harm that is done to the younger child, then and over a period of time, if the parents or a much older person comes to know about the act and it is caught, then there is a possibility that it can be stopped. But a person who is older than the age of 18, or who is aware of what he or she is doing, it will definitely consider to be a sexual offense. When and of course, this is a very good question, because in most cases that I have come across, 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds or 16-year-olds, this is a very common kind of group that is formed.
Age group, yes.
Young children and their older cousins or older siblings, these acts tend to happen. So if this act is done out of curiosity and there is no physical harm, and with the time it is stopped, I believe it is not considered to be incest. But if it is done with a much younger child and a much older person who is aware of his or her actions, it will be considered a sexual offense.
Okay, so it's a still incest, right? Even if it's not considered as a
Absolutely.
sexual offense, it's a still incest, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. So since you have mentioned the word penetration, so I am just to make the picture clear. So most of the
Hmm.
time, it's clear when you say penetration is involved between an older male and a uh, minor female. So it's like
Yes.
really easy to understand. But when there is a two male involved,
Hmm.
so how do you like
Right. So, if you
define that?
remember the
Yeah.
definition that I talked about for incest, I will just and the actions that are involved. Let me just repeat that. Incest and sexual abuse of children take many forms and may include the following actions, such as prolonged kissing, looking, and
Right.
petting, vaginal and anal intercourse, and also oral sex. So these
Right.
actions will then, so in if it is a male to male connection, male to male action, then there might be oral sex involved or anal penetration involved.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And so we are towards the end of our timeline.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
so
yeah,
what?
I think we need to cover one more point
Right.
here, is to, like, because we're talking about family, we're talking
Right.
about an environment which involves close relatives and family
Right.
members, I believe our entire series about is about how parents can be involved in protecting children from different kind of sexual offenses. I believe the role of parents is very very important here. I'm not sure whether we can cover this in like within a few minutes or not, but I would just like to mention that parents play a very very significant role. Now when I say parents, I might also include guides, counselors, or caretakers in the family, because there is a huge possibility that the offender is the parent, right?
Right.
So when we talk about taking care of such children, we need the child needs to know that there is some sort of social support. If not not the parent, who must he or she go to? Let's say
Yeah.
if the parents are abusing the child physically or in any other way, they must have a close relative with whom they can find themselves to be safe. So grandparents, uncle and or an aunt who will actually protect them. Apart from that, not just getting support from parents or family members, the child needs to know his or her rights. What can he or she do legally if they are not finding help from anywhere else? There is always the system, the law, who is there to help them. So there again, I keep mentioning, in India there is a toll free helpline for young children. It is 1098 1098, and it is kept in such a way so that a child can remember 1098. So if there is any kind of mishap that happens with the child externally in the outer world or within the family, they can call on this number, they can report a complaint, and a proper social services will come to them, a social worker will take care of the child, everything will happen very very smoothly. So I always recommend parents to teach their children that no matter who abuses them, they have the right to call the police. So yeah, I
Right.
feel these
And
can be
yeah, sorry.
yeah. No, no, you go. Yeah.
And this works around the clock all over the country.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It's.
Yeah. Anything else? Anything important point you want to add?
I think the only important point I want to place here is that I keep telling people that a safe or a healthy society is built from the grassroots level, and the major role played is by the parents. When you give birth
Right.
to a child, you have a huge responsibility of bringing a new citizen to this country, to make a change, to build a better society. So, as parents, you need to remember to educate your child, bring awareness. I always tell them that do not think that your child is too young to know something or too old to, not know something.
Yeah.
You need to make them aware, because time is changing very fast, so you need to change accordingly. These are not the times where we were living in a world where there was no technology. If you're not informing them the
Right.
right way, they might find out from somewhere else, and that won't be a very good way of
Way.
going forward.
Yeah.
I think we're losing connections. Yeah. So I think family members and parents must sit with their children from the age of 8 or 10. They must start educating about them, their bodies, according to what is right, what is wrong, and please make them aware that not to trust anyone blindsidedly. It is important to know your body, how to
Yeah.
protect it, and where to go when something wrong happens. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
my only tip for the parents for today.
Yes. I just want to, I mean, if you don't mind, I just want to rephrase the last sentence a bit. Like
Yes.
don't uh, believe someone blindly. I would say just to stay aware, learn to stay aware,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to
Right.
like believe your parents. That's the first human being you basically come into contact, but you
Yes.
need to like I mean, get to see. And most of the time probably we have this notion that only our uncle or male relatives do this kind of things. That's what
Right.
that's how we are brought up, with that notion that you should be careful around your male relatives. But I think many female relatives also probably go for this kind of act. Only thing is that considering women are subdued in our country
Yes,
socially, so probably they don't feel that power dynamics inside them, and they cannot, like, uh, they cannot
correct.
probably come out. But there are ways that on female relative also can perform this kind of act with your children. So just stay aware, not only around your male relatives, around your female relatives as well.
Yes.
and
Thank you for
and
bringing
I
that
think,
up because we are breaking a barrier here, correct? And the
right,
offense can be done by males, females, and it can happen to males, females. It is a all round thing. It is not just that males can do something wrong or females are the only victims that are
right,
present. It can happen to
yes,
anyone.
correct, yes. I think with that we are we have to stop for today. It's a 30-minute session. So, but
It was quick.
as I said, it was quick, but it was
Yeah.
nice and really informative, Namrata, and
Yes.
as always with you. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it needs probably a lot of courage to discuss on such topic, especially publicly, and
Yes.
being gentle, being sensitive around the topic also. I mean, like, very hard considering our audience. So, but still, we time is already over. So we will come to this kind of sessions in this platform again and again on similar topics. And that's all for today. Thank you, everyone who has
Yeah, and
watched.
also I
Yeah,
would just like to mention that if anybody feels connected, if somebody feels like they need to talk to someone or they need to, yeah, share something from their experience, you can always send us a personal chat message on Facebook. You have our, you're just watching here. Victor also commented, and I highly appreciate you for asking such an insightful question. So don't feel like you're alone. We're here for you, and we will discuss further. And please get in touch with us if you need any sort of help. Thank you so much.
yeah, and it is never too late. It doesn't matter what age you are,
Yes,
just try to come out if it is bothering you, and we will there here to support you. So thank you, Namrata,
right.
and I'm ending the session for today.
Thank you, Nabanita.
Yeah.
Bye bye.